Today is Thursday, August the 1st, and today was brought to you by a president who has no clue what he's doing. Just when the market was recovering from its pullback yesterday, as it realized that the Fed lowering by 0.25% was not all that bad, and it had been overdone, just as we projected would happen, the market did bounce back. And then President Loco said something. Now he could tomorrow admit that he didn't say it or claim that he didn't say it. Who the hell knows? But the volume, like yesterday in the Dow, was extremely high. If you remember, I didn't point it out yesterday, but this relative volume bar was very high in the Dow yesterday, very high today, very high in the NASDAQ, very high in the S&P 500. And since decliners led advancers, that means there was a lot of heavy selling going on. So 70% to 30%, which is going to bring our oscillator down more into the oversold area, probably lower than its previous low. And we're going to have a new lower low. So here was a low, lower low, and here's another lower low into oversold, which could be a good thing because it means we could be due for a bounce back, but it sure won't happen tomorrow. So the S&P down 2682, and the key thing here is that it almost filled the gap that we've been saying from the opening of the gap had to be filled, is being filled, and tomorrow it will be filled. I am almost positive tomorrow it will be filled, and there will be buyers, and the market will move back up mid-morning or in the afternoon, later in the early afternoon. But what's also interesting is, you remember the head and shoulders, left shoulder, head and neck, right shoulder. This is the neck. We saw this being our support for our drive higher. Well, now we saw it as being support for a possible, in quotes, possible bounce tomorrow. Was the selling an overreaction to what the president said? Is there any way that the Congress can slow this down? Is there anything that can prevent the 10%? Was it just a bluff? This is why yesterday I was 45% in cash. But at the open today, at the pre-market today, I bought Apple because I said that Apple would bounce back, and it did bounce back, and there was a fairly substantial profit in the 200 shares that I bought, and then I sold next week's 210 puts, and they were all doing very nice. Well, of course, they're doing pretty crappy right now, and we finished below the 8 EMA. Look, Apple is still a stock to hold for the same reasons that it popped up to 221, for the same reasons that it bounced back today after being oversold yesterday. We had less volume today than yesterday, so that's an encouraging sign on a down day. So I'm going to stick with Apple. I did sell the 220 calls before the market turned because I always, I went on the limb to buy more stock when I was concerned about the market. So I sold calls, the 220 calls, for about I sold them for $1.45, and then I sold the 210 puts for $1.14. So my break even is going to be 208.76, 208.86, which is a little bit below where we are now, but we've got a week. But I'm telling you, if the market goes down tomorrow and doesn't get support right here at 29.41, I'm going to sell everything. And I'm going to take losses, but I'm going to keep the gains that I've made so far this year. There's nothing that's going to prevent me from keeping the substantial gains that I've made this year. They're a hell of a lot less than they were on Monday, but they're significant. So I am not going to find myself losing that. Caterpillar, brutal day, down $5. Clearly China related, so my 135 short calls went virtually worthless. I was able to buy them back, but I expected a bounce from Caterpillar, so I didn't cover the stock again. GDX, yesterday we took off this bull flag after this reaction, but now we're back into this zone, so the bull flag is back on again. So now we're going to set an alert when it crosses the top line. And tomorrow, when we get above 27.87 is what it would be today, probably a little bit lower tomorrow, the alert's going to go off, and it's going to be an opportunity to dig into gold and GDX, and I'm going to do it. Whirlpool, again, terrible break, but where did it come to? Again, this very, very important trend line that we followed for weeks is where it came back to miraculously end the day. Not get a bounce, but just close the day right at that point. There's no wick below that, so that's where it stopped. So now we've got a stock that's going between this trend line and this trend line. So what is going to be the point of support? Will we bounce tomorrow? Volume was very low on this steep drop. So I'm thinking it's not, well, it's clearly not institutions that were selling, because it didn't even surpass the 20-day volume average. So I'm expecting a bounce tomorrow in WHR. WDC, which reported earnings last night, had a very nice move up, but finished pulling back below its high. And now we have something in here that is like GDX, but we have that bull flag. Right, let's just say that it's right here. And we can set an alert here, create an alert. When it crosses the bottom line, and a trigger. I think gold, let me see, did I make a mistake on gold? Yes, I want a trigger on the bottom, not the, sorry, I want a trigger on the top. We're good there. So that covers our main stocks. What do we expect in the S&P? Well, we've got the McClellan oscillator, which is going to finish down here at the -100. Usually, I mean, here at -100 it bounced up. Here it bounced up. But other times, here it bounced up, but other times it continued to reach a critical oversold level. And even occasionally in the last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, we can forget that one, that was only one day, this was 2 days, this was 1 day. So really only 1, 2, 3 times in the last year did it pass this threshold of oversold before we got a bounce. But we are going more towards the oversold. I'm going to say that tomorrow it's Friday. Let's see what Larry Kudlow, don't get me started on Larry Kudlow, spins about this tomorrow to try to help the market. But between Kudlow and Mnuchin, they are going to give some kind of bullshit to help the market. And I wouldn't be a big-time buyer on what they say. I would tread very carefully, because it's going to be, excuse me, bullshit.